We are 6 weeks into the NFL season, and I think it is fairly obvious to say who has the best offense in the entire National Football League, and that would have to be the Miami Dolphins. I mean, there's a reason that the Dolphins are 5-1 right now, and it's because week in and week out, all they do is put up points on the board. I'm sure their worst week was probably against the Bills, and even in that blowout loss, they still managed to get 20 points. So even when they're down, they're up. And there are so many reasons that the Dolphins have had so much success early on offensively. Maybe you could attribute it to their head coach, Mike McDaniel. Amazing play caller. His schemes are fantastic. He came over from the San Francisco 49ers. He was their offensive coordinator. He was their run game coordinator before that. And we know how great San Francisco's offense has looked these past few years. So maybe he's the reason why everything's clicking in Miami. Or maybe the Miami Dolphins have had so much success because Tua has been able to stay healthy the entire time. We know a big reason as for why the Dolphins kind of fell off in the middle of the season and towards the end was because they were missing Tua. And as much as people want to discredit him and say he isn't a star quarterback, when the team doesn't have him, it runs terribly. So yes, the man brings so much success when he's on the team. He is super valuable, kind of like Saquon on the Giants, you know what I'm saying? Hell, the Dolphins have even had a dynamic run game this season. I mean, you take a look at their running back room, you got a guy like Jeff Wilson, who came from the Niners. He's very good, but he's been on the IR the whole season, hasn't played yet. And then another former Niner in Raheem Mostert, who has played, and he's been very good for the team. He's their starting running back, 31 years old. He's a vet. He's gone through injuries, but he's playing right now, and it's probably one of his best seasons of his career. And he isn't the only running back popping off for the team, because an even bigger surprise for the Miami Dolphins has been their versatile rookie running back, Devin Aan. Now, Aan was drafted in the 3rd round just this past year, and he's out of Texas A&M. And if you watched any of his footage or looked at any of his stats, you'd know why Devin Aan is playing so well. I mean, this dude was a stud at Texas A&M. He played for that school for about 3 years. Of course, his first season was during COVID, so his stats don't look the best, but his last 2 years at Texas A&M were phenomenal. And if you've been keeping up with football, then you probably know that NFL teams do not value the running back like they used to. They're not willing to pay them after their rookie contract is up, and even if they do, they barely make anything. So, when the Dolphins went out and drafted a running back in the 3rd round, you knew he had to be talented. Maybe not Bijan Robinson talented, because that guy went in like the 1st round, but Devin Aan was pretty darn good. And to give you some backstory on this dude, in his sophomore season with the Aggies, he went out, rushed for 900 yards. His attempts went from 43 to 130 in just one season, and he had 9 rushing touchdowns for the team. And that's not even mentioning what Devin Aan was able to do through the air, because he had also gotten, I want to say, 260 receiving yards with a little receiving touchdown. So in total, he had over 1,000 yards through scrimmage in his sophomore season, and things only got better from there, because he followed up that solid sophomore year with a fantastic junior season. His junior year, he played 10 games, so he had 2 less games, and in those 2 less games, he was able to get 196 attempts on the ground for 1,100 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. He didn't get as many touchdowns on the ground, but he got way more yards, way more attempts in less games, and he had nearly 200 receiving yards with 3 touchdown passes, that he caught. So then you look at his total numbers for his junior year, 11 touchdowns, 1,300 total scrimmage yards. The dude was a stud, is what I'm trying to get at. So when he burst onto the scene, I could see why maybe a few people weren't shocked, but if I'm being real, I was absolutely surprised. Devin Aan took me off guard. I had no idea who he was until he started playing super well for Miami. And let's just take a look at the Dolphins' schedule so far. In their Week 1 matchup, they had the Los Angeles Chargers, and it was an absolute shootout. I mean, both teams went back and forth, and of course, the Dolphins would end up coming up on top, 36-34, and thanks to Tua. Tua had a fantastic game through the air. I mean, 466 passing yards with 3 touchdowns thrown, it does not get better than that for Tua. That's probably why they ended up winning the game. Plus, Tyreek Hill went out, caught for 2 touchdowns, and had 215 receiving yards. Tyreek Hill did his thing that week. And that momentum carried over onto week 2, where they would go up against the New England Patriots, who have had a pretty rough season so far. And it didn't help that Raheem Mostert ran all over them week 2. Raheem Mostert had himself a game. 100 plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I am telling you, you cannot ask for more than that. And that's probably why the Dolphins ended up going on to win that game 24-17. Which led to week 3, which was a pounding, and the main reason I'm making this video. The Dolphins put 70 points on the board versus the Denver Broncos. They didn't slow down at all. Even when they had their backups in, they cooked the Broncos. Tua, 4 touchdowns, 309 passing yards, and he did not play the whole game. I'm pretty sure he only played like 3/4. And this game was really important for the Dolphins, because this was the game that Devin Aan broke out. He had 2 rushing touchdowns with 203 rushing yards on 18 carries. And it's not like Raheem Mostert didn't do anything, because while Aan was an absolute stud, Raheem Mostert got 3 rushing touchdowns with 82 yards on the ground. Both running backs played super well. The whole offense was explosive. Tyreek Hill also had a really good game. I mean, who didn't? The Dolphins absolutely pounded the Broncos, and that set them up with a 3-0 record to kick off the season. However, all of this momentum came to a screeching halt when the Dolphins went up against Buffalo, lost 48-20, and for the sake of my narrative, we'll just skip over that one. And that leads us to week 5 versus the Giants, who put up a solid fight. Tua didn't play his best. He had 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Aan had another really good game, by the way, on the ground. 151 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. So he played really well. Tyreek got another 180 yards receiving with another touchdown. So it was really Aan and Tyreek Hill who kind of pulled apart this Giants defense, which wasn't too hard to do. I mean, the New York Giants are 1-5 for a reason. Anyway, then they've got Carolina week 6, another 0-6 team. And the Carolina Panthers put up a fight early on. They started the game leading 14-0, only to allow the Miami Dolphins to score 35 straight points. Yes, they scored 5 touchdowns in a row, and the Panthers did nothing during that. Mainly due to, Jalen Waddle's back. He caught a touchdown. Raheem Mostert got a touchdown. Tyreek Hill got a touchdown. Everyone ate. And since Aan has now been placed on the IR, he is guaranteed not to play for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And it would surprise me if we saw Devin come back before their bye week, because, their bye week is really soon. I'm pretty sure it's like 4 weeks away exactly. So they'll probably bring him back after the bye, and that's okay, because Raheem Mostert is going to get a ton of more touches these next couple of weeks. The competition is going to get slightly harder for the Dolphins, so they're really going to need the team to step up, especially the defense, because the defense has low-key allowed a ton of points. It just kind of has gone unnoticed because everyone's focused on Miami's offense. And speaking of Miami's competition, it has been a bit suspect this season. I mean, their schedule has been super easy, and it's not their fault that their competition sucks. It's the schedule makers. There's nothing the Miami Dolphins can do about a really easy schedule, alright? I mean, they've played the Patriots 1-5, they've played the Broncos 1-5, they've played the Giants 1-5, and they've played the Panthers 0-6. 4 really shitty teams who are also layups for any good squad, so, 4 easy wins is what you could call it. In fact, their only impressive win is arguably against the Los Angeles Chargers, and that team's not even having a good year. I mean, right now they're playing the Dallas Cowboys as of this recording, and depending on how that game goes, the Chargers could be looking at a really slow start. So you got to question their competition, but they do play a few harder teams. They have the Eagles, they have the Chiefs, so we'll see how they do against good competition like the Bills, who they played earlier, and that's when they'll be put to the test. But anyway, that's about it for this video. Really just wanted to talk about the best offense in the NFL, because that's what they are. And I'll catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.